The Final Fantasy Wiki podcast is brought to you by the Advent Children Calendar. For 24 days before Christmas, you and your loved ones get to play the fun game of picking out which skinny Sephiroth flavored twink you get to enjoy that day. Sephiroth-y twinks are machine washable, non-refundable, offer not guaranteed in red states. Good evening! Welcome to the Final Fantasy Wiki podcast, the official podcast of the Final Fantasy Wiki. It's a self-descriptive podcast. And it's December. Hi. 2023 is ending. Yeah. And with it ends, nothing really in particular. I guess it's just 2024. It's a year that it was unimaginable 2 years ago, but now it's here and it's coming. And rent's also due, so make sure you pay your rent. Joining me tonight are, the guys.
Hi.
Yep.
We're the guys.
We are the guys.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm your host, BlueHighwind. I just assume that everyone knows this at this point, but... and the guys are SomeColorMage and Technobliterator.
Hello.
Yep,
that's one way to put us.
Yeah, they are the fellas. The bros, the brewskis, jabronis, I don't know. The party.
The mandems.
Yeah, it's like we're a late 90s Square RPG, so there's only three of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only three per party.
Sometimes four, sometimes we're an early 90s Square RPG.
Yes, sometimes we even swap out a little bit.
Yes.
You know. We have the swap out mechanic from FF10. Sometimes that happens.
And sometimes my computer dies, and then we have to start the podcast on a brand new PC brought to me by the Hanukkah Penguin. Thank you, Hanukkah Penguin.
Let's go.
Yay. He's totally real.
Fucking go.
Lives in the South Pole. He brings presents to good Jewish boys and girls for 8 days. Though... honestly, he usually brings one good present, and then the rest are kind of junk.
Oh.
Yeah. Especially if you are a Jewish family that also celebrates Christmas, and the good Jewish boy's birthday was like a month after that, is in January. So, Hanukkah really gets the short stick in that case.
Penguin doesn't seem too fond of triple dipping.
No, I mean, the Penguin has a budget.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah. So, what do you guys want to talk about? I mean, what's on your mind?
Well, there's been quite a lot of news this month, hasn't there? Like, quite a lot. Specifically for Final Fantasy VII fans. There's also been... Okay, I'm going to be completely honest. I have been awful this month because I've been so busy on Spider-Man stuff that I have completely neglected any other Final Fantasy news aside from the fact that FF7 got a bunch of... We learned a bunch of things about this game, all of which I'm massively excited about. So, okay. Can we start with the non-FF7 news first, I guess?
Okay. Let me check my notes that I kept for the entire month of things. First of all...
Yeah, and let me check my FF7 for when we get to it.
We'll save Final Fantasy VII for a bit later. We can do the other things.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so, first bit of news. A gentleman by the name of Yasuni Matsuno, also known as Yasmat, a 50 million HP dragon that lives in the Nidorina Cataract, something like that. I don't think I'm saying that name right. What was it called? The something Cataract. Where is Yasmat? The Ridorana Cataract. He's a 50 million HP super boss. He's also a human being, and he announced on X.com, formerly Twitter.com, though we're never ever going to call it X.com, that there is no plans to remaster Final Fantasy Tactics that he knows of. He said...
I mean, even if there was, he doesn't work for Square anymore, aside from being brought on to commission certain work, so he wouldn't be privy to most of Square Enix's private plans anymore.
Yeah, he said, please send your request to Square Enix, not me. Like, not my job. Also,
He can't do anything with it.
This is very important, but Matsuno's like icon on Twitter is him holding up 2 Sapporo beers next to his head, which is
like that's something, he's not gonna say that, and that doesn't change my opinion, which is that a Tactics remaster or remake or whatever it is inevitable. Like, this game has only gotten more love over the years as time has gone by, and it's been rumored for quite a good amount of time. I think it exists. I think they're taking their time with it, and I think my man doesn't know anything about it. And even if he did, it's not his place to say.
I think he would know. If Square Enix was doing it, there'd be somebody at the company who would be like talking to him on Discord or Slack or whatever thing. He would get a call.
Yeah, but he might not he might not know a huge amount about it, and more importantly, if he did, he wouldn't be able to tell us. NDAs.
Yeah, he wouldn't. If Square Enix has not announced it, he's probably not able to announce anything. This is like the one thing that came out of that leak from all those years ago that hasn't come to pass. I think it was that, and maybe a Final Fantasy IX remaster was on that list.
Mm.
Yeah.
And yeah, it does make all the sense in the world to remake Final Fantasy Tactics. I mean, maybe Square Enix has even remastered it years ago, and they're doing like a Nintendo thing where it's on like their backlog. When they have like a slow month, it's like, oh, here's Final Fantasy Tactics. Have fun with that.
But it's also like, the amount of games that have come out that are advertised as this is the spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics. There's no way we're not going to get it. Like, at some point. And I don't know what form that's going to take, but, Tactics is a game that, as the second a remaster comes out, I'm going to try it, because it's a game that I've always known I should, in theory, like. I just suck at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that a remaster with the right quality of life changes could make it one of my favorite games. In fact, I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Is Final Fantasy Tactics on Steam, by the way?
Yes, but it's on Steam.
It is not. I've just checked.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, amazingly, it's not on. I don't know how it's not on Steam yet.
Yeah, the remake is just PSP, Android, and iOS.
Amazing.
I could have sworn it was on Steam.
It's amazing they
haven't... I'm sorry, viewers. I just gave you a bunch of misinformation. I'm really sorry about that. I could have sworn it was on there.
It's amazing they haven't like just ported like the iOS version onto Steam, because they did that. They did that half-ass shit sometimes for like Final Fantasy VI, right?
They do that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, they did before they had the pixel remasters of everything, and the pixel remasters are more like properly designed in a way where it's actually for that system as opposed to a half-assed port. So maybe if they do port Tactics, they want to do it right. But I will say, Tactics is the kind of game you would think would be really good on an iPad.
It would be really good on a PlayStation Portable, I can report that much.
Oh, it was great on a PlayStation Portable.
How far did you get in Tactics, by the way?
I got up to the Chocobo bit where it was fuck. What was this? I don't remember the details.
Was this the execution place?
I just did. No, I remember now. I killed Fat Man. I killed the fat guy.
Yes.
I don't remember his name.
And then Bishop.
I got stuck after that.
Bishop.
Yes, Bishop something.
He's got like a French name.
Yeah. And then
Cardinal Devereaux, I think his name is, something like that.
Yeah, I got stuck after that.
Here we are. Cardinal Delacroix is his name. There you are. His name might have changed between translations, if memory serves. Yeah, that's... If you got past him, you've actually gotten past, like, the hardest part of the game. The only difficult part is the Wheatgrass fight at the end of Chapter 3, which can be cheesed if you go and use Ram's special, like, power boost ability. And then just run away and do boosts until you overpower him.
Maybe I do need to go back and try it again then. I didn't know that.
The game just gets a lot easier as it goes on. Like, early game, can be really tough because you're also kind of limited in how far you can grind before the random encounter algorithm just starts spawning extremely hard fights at you.
Yeah, that's the real problem. But you can just run away from.
Was that me?
Yeah, that was you. What noise was that?
I don't know, because I don't know. I didn't hear any noise.
Sound like you burped or something. Oh, the other thing about Final Fantasy Tactics is that Remap Radio, one of my favorite video game podcasts, they did a deep dive episode on Tactics. Unfortunately, only Kato there played it, so they didn't have the best conversation. I sent in a question which they read on the air.
That's cool.
Yeah. I emailed them saying, do you need any help with this? But they have no idea who I am, and I assume did not read the email, so, I shot my shot. It's worth trying. But if you are listening, Remap Radio, and you need a Final Fantasy expert on any of your Final Fantasy Deep Dive podcasts, please call me at www.bluehighwind.com. That's not the correct URL at all.
That's not the correct URL. It's like bluehighwind.blogspot. Yeah, and that might not be it.
And you can't call a website, of course.
You can't. That's true.
You can call me at 1-800-BLUEHIGHWIND.
No, you can't. There's no way that's a real phone.
It probably certainly is not, no. Maybe it's too many numbers, so it's like 1-800-HIGHWIND possibly could work. No, that's still too many, because it's 8 characters. Highwind without the second H. Maybe that'll work. So the next bit of news is Kaguya Productions. There was an interview of that came out on GameDeveloper.com. This is the new company that was started by Alexander O. Smith and Joseph Reeder, formerly Square Enix localizers, now freelancers. So there was a lot of bits about what's going on with this company, and mostly the most interesting stuff is like their previous adventures working in Square Enix. Like, both these guys started in the late 90s when Square Enix localization was just a clown show that no one seemed to care about. And eventually they were able to professionalize it and make it like a serious thing. And these guys will go on to be a lot of the reason why Final Fantasy XII is so great, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
One fun...
I feel like...
Yeah, what?
Okay. So I feel like with 12, and I didn't play 16, but I got this impression from 16 as well. I feel like they were almost made Western first, if that makes sense. Like, they were almost made, like, English as the first language. And then Japanese came second, because it felt like that was so much their aesthetic with that one.
Well, that
was... So 16...
that was the case for 16.
No. What happened with 16? The original script was Japanese, then Koji Fox translated it, and then they adjusted lines in Japanese to match the line timings of the English, because they didn't lip sync any language other than English.
Okay.
That makes a huge amount of sense, right? But with 12, 12 has... I think 12... I don't know about 16, but 12 definitely has the best voice casting. Well, I guess it is best voice casting, but best voice acting in the series by far. Like, 12's voice cast is just brilliant. Like, the way every line is delivered and the way every line is... It's just phenomenal with 12. The English voice acting, And as much as, 7 Remake is the other one where I think every main voice actor is absolutely incredible. The side characters, maybe not so much, but the main cast is just phenomenal. And then a lot of the other voice acting is quite hit and miss. But 12's is the one that stands out to me as, you don't get any impression like with 10, for example. There's certain lines where you can tell they delivered it like super fast because they had to, because they were going against the Japanese one. And I didn't get that impression with any line from 12, unless I'm misremembering.
Well, the
Right.
thing, I do have some details about 12's translation.
Okay.
All right, so I didn't find anything about like mouth flaps or anything like that, but we did find out why 12's voice sounds so bizarre and compressed, which is that this is not Alexander O. Smith. This is Joseph Reeder who says this. Quote, we did remote recording through an ISDN line connected to London. This is me adding in the notes that most of the voice actors were London like theater actors, like Shakespearean trained actors, which is why the game has
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, but so quote is an ISDN line connected to London while we were in the studio in LA. So they were recording in the actors were in London. They were recording in LA with all the stuff done in Japan, which is why I guess that explains why the sound quality is not 100% perfect, but it's still amazing how well it all comes out considering that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean the sound quality is whatever, but the actual voice acting itself is amazing.
Oh, one other thing, and when I was talking about how like slapdash everything was, this is them mentioning that originally for Final Fantasy VIII, literally on Final Fantasy VIII, we were playing our own game and hacking it with the Game Sharks for the translation. It was very sad.
That one. Yeah, they've told that story before. That's
amazing.
That's it. That's
and
impressive.
It still
because
resulted in a better translation than what 7 got.
Yeah, which is
no,
also
because
amazing.
8 was the first translation that I feel like was actually like a good translation. Not the best, it wasn't as good as like, not even as good as 9's turned out to be or 10's. But 8 is a huge step up from 7, for example.
Is that the first Faraga game in the West? Where it's not
Yes,
Fire
it is.
8 is when eight is when they first translated the spells close to literally.
Okay.
Yep.
They still like drop a couple syllables in English that don't sound correct but they keep the same structure as they have in Japan.
I have one other very important thing in this interview that I thought was important that the world hear, as much as I can send it out to the world, is this is Alexander O. Smith, quote, whenever they had a recording, I would rehearse the part for the Japanese singers. The other thing I did is vocals for Otherworld. First of all, I rapped that section, and then the singer said it over my voice. You can actually hear both of our voices in the rap, which is amazing.
Interesting.
So when you play Final Fantasy X, at least the original one, I don't know about the remastered one. Maybe they use the same audio in the remastered, but Alexander O. Smith is there rapping along with everything else.
Well, at least it sounds the same to me. But I think 10 remastered soundtrack, I'm actually more familiar with that than 10 OG soundtrack. I know everyone hates me for that, but I played the HD remaster first, and that song doesn't sound different in any way.
Yeah, did they even redo Otherworld? I thought they just like...
I don't know.
I don't think they did. It wouldn't shock me if they didn't.
I just felt like I should go throw in that little citation needed note, because I don't know. All I know is that the battle theme in Final Fantasy X Remastered sounds like crap. They completely messed it up.
Yeah, that one does. I agree with that one.
And it's not a small thing either. It's the main battle theme. You hear it 7,000 times. Okay. Next thing, Final Fantasy XVI DLC.
Right.
Did anyone play the DLC that they shadow dropped at the Game Awards?
Yeah.
And what did you think?
I think it's something that will not convince anyone either way on the game, because it's basically just one long extra dungeon.
Yeah.
Wait, but I thought Gilgamesh is in it.
No, this is...
No? Am I making that up?
He might be in the next...
Yes, you're making it up.
There's 2 batches of DLC.
This DLC's Omega, the other one's Leviathan.
I could have sworn I've seen a battle involving Gilgamesh that made me want to play. Oh no,
Maybe you're...
Was that Shadow of the Hedgehog?
What? Wait, Shadow the Hedgehog?
Stranger of Paradise.
Okay.
It might have been
Yes, you're
Stranger of
thinking of
Paradise.
Stranger in Paradise.
Shadow of the
where
Hedgehog.
where the 3 DLCs were, the first one's Bahamut, the second one's Gilgamesh, and the third one is Omega and Mateus.
We have to call it that
Gotcha.
from now on. It's Stranger Paradise Shadow of the Hedgehog. Okay, so yeah,
Okay,
there's 2 Final Fantasy XVI DLCs. Echoes of the Fallen Shadow dropped the night of the
Yep.
Game Awards. Then the Rising Tide is coming out sometime in 2024. Echoes of the Fallen just looks like a post-game dungeon with a super boss, which I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like that should just come standard on an RPG. There should always be post-game content. I don't think you should charge people for that. But, you know, it's your dollar, so you have whatever you want. And the Rising Tide is actually a whole new land outside of the land of Valistea. It is Valistea, right? I'm not... Yeah, Valistea. Where you and your party go and finally get to fight Leviathan, who is mentioned in Final Fantasy XVI but never actually appears.
Yeah. And like while questions about whether or not this should be paid DLC aside, the Omega fight is pretty damn good. The dungeon, it's a very long dungeon. It gives you a lot of items, including some stuff. It's of course almost all accessories, which they're interesting, but also like it doesn't really help diversity of build because you can only equip one of these accessories at any time, and you still only got a total of 3 slots. So it does let you do some interesting things. Like there's an accessory that allows you to see the timing for parries. There's one that essentially allows you to use Limit Break as a Phoenix down. Like it will automatically trigger if it can and you're about to die. There's some interesting things there, but it's not particularly substantial overall. And also, Omega's theme is just another redo of his theme for 14 because Token is a memey fuck.
Okay. I did not...
Oh, it was Omega, was it? That was the
Omega,
one I was
yeah. Or Omega, as you might say over there, I think.
No,
No?
I don't think so. No, okay. I've only said it Omega.
Okay, I just know that British pronunciations are bizarre. It's like
they are, absolutely. Sometimes some people I think do say that.
Okay. I am gonna say about this DLC, I did not play it because I didn't really have time to play it, but also if Final Fantasy XVI is gonna win me over, I don't think it's gonna do that just by being more Final Fantasy XVI. I was hoping for a more dramatic shakeup of what was already on the table. I was really hoping it would be more like the Final Fantasy XV DLCs, where, they did dramatically different things with the game. And 16 was already not enough games stretched too long. So,
but you have to remember with that they didn't start doing dramatically different things with the game until later on with the 15 DLC. So, like, the first 15 DLC, the Gladio DLC, I was so disappointed in it. Because
that was an hour long, right? That sucked.
It was about an hour long. You play quote-unquote Gilgamesh, which is not... He's nothing like Gilgamesh, right? And you played as... He was... Like, Gladio was my favorite one. And he was alongside a character I kind of liked, who I don't even remember his name anymore, because that's how forgettable the DLC was. It was so disappointing. And then after that, you have the Prompto DLC, which is the Metal Gear Solid-esque DLC. And that one was a lot more interesting. Then after that, you had the one for... what's his name? Ignis? Yeah, Ignis. That was really good.
Was that the shooter one? I know one of them's like a shooter.
No, the Prompto one.
Oh, okay.
The Prompto one was the shooter one. Then you have the Ignis one, and the Ignis one, that was actually really, really solid. And then you had the Arden one, and that was by far the best one. So maybe 16's DLCs will start to get better as they go along. Someone's right.
The Leviathan DLC is definitely promising to be more substantial because the price of the DLC Twin Pack is more than double the price of the Omega DLC standalone. So
Yeah, I might watch this on YouTube. I don't think I'm gonna play either one of these.
Yeah, I think that when the time comes when I play 16, it'll probably be when all the DLC is out, and maybe I'll be able to judge it fairly.
And they'll probably be both included with the PC version when that comes out.
And it'll be 250 gigabytes. Probably.
Hopefully not.
I think it probably would be, actually. Yeah, right. How much is Final Fantasy XVI standalone download on PlayStation 5 right now?
It's about $70.
Well, it fits on one disc, so it's less than 100.
But is it actually on the disc, or are you actually downloading it off the disc? Because let's see what the download size is.
Pretty sure the entire base game is on the disc.
It's 90 gigabytes. Is how big it is. Because I remember Final Fantasy XV PC version was like 150 gigabytes, wasn't it? It was like some ridiculous size. It said you need at least 100 gigabytes, and that was back in like 2018 when games usually weren't that enormous. That was like what, 100 gigabytes? That's insane. But
99.51.
Yeah, now that's just how big games are. You buy a PlayStation 5 and you can fit 3 games on it.
Like, we already know that 7 Rebirth is more than 100 because it's a multi-disc game on the PS5.
Yep.
Yep, that's going to be huge.
Where do you think disc 2's gonna... Well, you have to change discs. Do you think that it's gonna end with Aerith getting killed and then you have to change the discs again?
No, there's going to be...
no,
It's not going to be a disc game.
PlayStation and Xbox these days, you don't actually play the game off the disc. You have to... copy the whole thing onto the console. They're just installation discs.
Yeah, that's right.
I hate it. I miss media when it was media.
Remember that scene in Metal Gear Solid 4 where you're in Shadow Moses and Artacon's like, yo, change the disc. And then Snake's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, oh, just kidding, we're on PS3, no disc change.
Yeah, they do that a lot in Metal Gear Solid 4. The entire...
They need to do that. They need to do that in 7 Rebirth. Like, you should get to you need to get to after Meteor falls, right? We need to get to that point, and then
that's going to
Cloud
be,
is like,
that's not going to be until the 3rd game.
Well, we need to get to that point, and then Cloud said, one of the things we learned as soldiers, when we reach this point, we have to change the disc. And then Barrett's like, what the fuck are you on about, Cloud? There's no disc. And Cloud's like, just kidding. Things have changed since I was in Soldier. Or some stupid shit like that. They need to put that in, man.
It's a shame that Final Fantasy VII Original didn't like have a Rumble Pack thing. So you can't really do the whole thing in Metal Gear Solid 4 where, what's his name? Oh my god.
Psycho Mantis.
Thank you, Psycho Mantis. It's like, wait, no Rumble Pack. No memory card, and then he can't actually do any of the shit that he does, and then he just dies.
He gets so happy if you're playing with a DualShock 3 instead of a 6-axis.
Oh, I didn't play with.
Yep.
I played with.
Vibration is back.
When I played Metal Gear Solid 1 recently, it's the first time I've ever played it and passed the torture scene. Before.
Yeah. That's
I was never able to pass the torture scene, so either Meryl would die, or I'd have to go to my cousin and beg him to do the torture scene for me, because he could always do it and I could never do it. And this is the first time I've ever done it, where I passed the torture scene, and I was so proud of myself.
You know, that I have that same problem with Chrono Trigger. There's a button mashing sequence in the history. Yeah. There's a part where you gotta button mash really, really hard to drink like red stuff, and button mashing is impossible on a Nintendo DS. The buttons are so thin.
Fun.
It's awful. I had to get my stepbrother to do it for me. For Metal Gear Solid 1, I was able to get through the Meryl sequence. Guess how I was able to do it?
Nice.
No, but guess how I did it. Because I can't button
Oh,
mash.
go
I
on.
suck at it.
Did you? Oh, you used the Ocelot's like, don't even think about using this. Wow, no. And you used that, and he didn't find out about it.
No, I
'Cause
used
that's actually bullshit.
I used a spoon and used it to go and hit the button really, really fast. You just
Oh,
run the
that's a
spoon
good
back
one.
and forth. Yeah.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've covered everything with 16, unless we have more thoughts
Yeah.
on that. We should probably talk about the Game Awards.
Right.
Yeah, so the Game Awards have never really been all that. This was the least bad Game Awards I've watched.
I did not watch the Game Awards.
I
got
watched
the big,
it.
I got the big clips the next day.
So here's the thing. There's been some controversy about the Game Awards, which was that they said that they didn't allow the people accepting the awards enough time to speak on it. And look, I'm not going to disrespect the developers on that. And, I completely understand the perspective that they should have been given more time to speak. But with that said, there was, I wouldn't consider that part fluff before I say what I'm about to say. There was so much less fluff in this and so much more stuff that we actually came for, right? They got on with things like the trailers. They didn't waste... There were some stupid-ass celebrity cameos, but the cameos all felt like they were related to gaming on this one. Like, okay, Anthony Mackie comes in, and everyone's like, oh, this guy's a gangster? His real name's Clarence. And everyone knows Anthony
What?
Mackie.
His real
He's
name's
8 Mile.
Clarence?
No, it's in 8 Mile. It's the scene in 8 Mile where Anthony Mackie gets schooled by Eminem.
Oh, you know what? I have not seen that, and I was thinking of his character in that. He was just in a video game TV. He was in.
Yes, exactly. He's in.
Oh,
he's
what
in
the hell?
Twisted Metal.
Twisted Metal.
Twisted
thank
Metal.
you.
Yeah, he's in Twisted Metal. So his cameo, it makes sense, right? It makes sense that Anthony Mackie is up there. You don't just have people who are like, oh, it's a famous guy that happens to be into games. Let's put him on. Let's put on fucking Dwayne Johnson, even if he has not fuck all to do with what's going on.
Was it Timothy Chalamet
just
there? Just because he.
Yeah, he was, and that's whatever. He was good in Wonka. Whatever.
He's great
Timothy...
in Lives of P. God, I bluffed that completely. He's really good in Lives of P. What is with that game? I can't say it. Lies of P. I like him in Lies of P.
Oh, so he is in a game.
No,
okay.
he's not. He just looks exactly like him. Here,
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll
Right.
show you. I'll show you. Lies of P. Pinocchio looks exactly like friggin' Timothy Chalamet.
And here
Right,
I thought I was being helpful, but I was just setting you up for a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's all the trailers were actually exciting trailers for once. And I think part of that is because E3 it's officially dead. We have officially learned that E3 is not coming back. So I think they actually saved their trailers for this time. But no, this is the first Game Awards I watched where I didn't feel like I just wasted 3 hours of my life. I felt like I was genuinely entertained. I enjoyed the trailers that had shown up, right? And I feel for the developers who didn't get enough time to make their speeches, but at the same time, I feel like they're actually starting to listen to the feedback on it for once and make it a better show. And I never got that impression before. I got the impression that they were content with the show being extremely mediocre because they're like, oh, well, look at these viewership numbers. We must be doing something right. But I got the sense they're actually improving it. Did you feel that way, SCM, or is it just me?
I mean, I guess there was more that interested me, but the real problem wasn't really that the base speech time was short. It's that we know from stuff they talk about later that the thing was manually controlled, which meant that they could choose not to run it, and showing please wrap it up when devs are talking about
Yeah.
their team that have died is extremely disgraceful.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the biggest controversy that came out of that. But the fact that the biggest controversy that came out of it was that, as opposed to, one of the things from previous years where it's like, oh, some random guy shows up on the stage to accept the award for, what was it last year? Was it Bloodborne? When the guy shows up and says, I would like to thank my Rabbi Bill Clinton or some shit.
Bloodborne didn't win anything last year.
It would be weird. Bloodborne for last year. No,
what was
Elden
Bloodborne
Ring won
wins
last
the
year.
award for the
That's
game
the one.
people keep requesting Sony do something with that they never will ever again.
That's the one.
That's why Lies of P exists, because Bloodborne will never get remastered. Someone had to make their own Bloodborne with Timothy Chalamet in it.
The fact that, what we're talking about is something that, is actually relating to the awards itself being what they were, to me, suggests some level of improvement. The other thing that people were talking about was Christopher Judge doing his speak where he made a shot at Call of Duty. And all the Activision developers were like, wow, that was a low blow.
Oh no, the game that we know is literally repackaged DLC. It's being blasted for being repackaged DLC.
Yeah, I could... You know what? No. You know what? I'd say it's probably a bad form to go and shit-talk another game while you're there, but, Christopher Judge is not a game developer. He's an actor who just happens to work in video games. So if he wants to shit-talk Call of Duty, shit-talk Call of Duty. If any... You know what, by the way, if any game has suffered the most amount of shit, it's Call of Duty because they've been #1 since forever. You've won. Right. You've won constantly. You're endlessly winning. You released a terrible game this year, and you still made a crap ton of sales. And you're going to make a crap ton of sales next year because even when Call of Duty has a bad game, it never runs out of steam.
Yep.
Right.
So live with it. You know what? It's like the Chiefs complaining last year about everyone not liking them and not believing in them. It's like, fuck off, dude. You won the Super Bowl. You're going to win another Super Bowl. You're great every single year. You're going to make the playoffs every single year. How much more do you want?
Blue told me not to talk about sports before this.
Yeah, all right. I'm only talking about the Chiefs. I'm not talking about the team I dare not mention because I'm infuriated with them. The ridiculous morons that I've followed for all these years. The Denver Broncos is what I'll call them. I don't even want to be fans of them anymore. I legitimately am like, I should just stop being a fan of this team. I should just stop. But that's off topic. This is a video game podcast.
It is indeed. Yeah, no. So for international viewers, the equivalent of that is like Man United, how they're doing right now. They're like, oh, we're so sad that we have a bad season for once. It's like, shut the fuck up. You've had a million good seasons, over time. Let other people have a fucking go, man. For Christ. Yeah, I guess that would be the equivalent. But, yeah, so I think it was probably not nice of Chris Judge to say that. But at the same time, I have a hard time being all that upset on behalf of the Call of Duty developers. But anyway, that was the Game Awards.
Well, no, we're not close to the end of the Game Awards. We have so much more to talk about at the Game Awards. There's actual Final Fantasy news.
There's more to talk about them?
Yeah, tons of talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Where did you think all of that 7 Rebirth news you've been sitting on came from?
Well, I was assuming we were counting that as a separate topic, but...
I mean,
okay.
I mean, I could talk about the actual games that are on there that I thought were good looking, like Unusual June, Don't Nod has a new game, things like that. But the new
Persona 3 looked good.
I played Persona 3. I don't need to play Persona 3 again. Oh, hi, Molly.
We haven't even really talked about the actual awards, because didn't Final Fantasy win a few of the awards?
Molly, you want to go hang out with me while I'm doing my video game podcast? Ladies and gentlemen at home, this is my dog, Molly. She just walked into the room because she's feeling lonely.
Hi, Molly.
Molly can't hear you because your voice is coming through my headphones. But Molly, Techno says hi. SomeColorMage says hi. The people at home say hi. She's yawning.
We do indeed.
Okay. I don't know what she wants. I'm going to ignore her while I continue doing this. Yeah, so the actual big Final Fantasy stuff. She has walked away. The big Final Fantasy stuff. Maybe she needs to go out, but I'll see how much longer I can ignore her. The big Final Fantasy stuff in the Game Awards. So first of all, Final Fantasy XIV lost Best Oncoming Game. Best Oncoming. Final Fantasy XIV loses Best Ongoing Game to Cyberpunk DLC.
Why the fuck was Cyberpunk even in that category?
You know what? I think Cyberpunk actually deserved to win that one.
No, I agree. Right. And I get that I'm biased. I might be biased. You might say I'm biased because I don't play 14 at the moment. But I also don't play Cyberpunk. Right. And I always say that, like, when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, I remember hearing my roommates at the time say, I feel like this is going to be a great game in a couple years when they've ironed out the bugs. And I thought at the time, they're not going to do that. You know, this game isn't going to get a redemption arc, because I was more used to games like Anthem or whatever that had come out and hadn't had their redemption arc. They just released, they were a dud, and then they burnt out after that, and the developers ignored them and moved on to the next thing. No, Cyberpunk 2077 has had an extremely respectable redemption arc, right? You know, kind of like Final Fantasy XIV did, maybe not to the same extent, you know, but that game has had genuine people really like that game now, and a lot of people are really rating it to the point where I might give it another shot. I might actually try it now. So I think it was well deserved, frankly. You know, and 14, like, I get it, didn't win this year, but it will win another year because 14 is still going strong.
It's the only MMO that matters.
I am not saying 14 deserves to win over Cyberpunk. What I'm saying is that having an expansion pack qualify as best ongoing is yet another case of the Game Awards just having severe category error and having awards that make no fucking sense.
Well, in fairness to Cyberpunk, it's not just that the DLC. Like, I misspoke. They may have actually given it to Cyberpunk's DLC, which is called something or another. I don't care. But Cyberpunk also had a big big revision this year. It's basically in, like, its 3.0 state, and apparently it's much better than even the 2.0 version I played last year, which I thought was okay, but not ultimately a good game. And honestly, the DLC doesn't look like it's my thing either, but a lot of people really love it. So I think it deserves this win. I think it is, in terms of a redemption story,
extremely impressive.
It did what Babylon's Fall could not do. Remember Babylon's Fall? Did I make that game up?
I do remember
that game existed, right? Yeah. That game is...
No, yeah, like, for a while...
Is that dead officially, Babylon's Fall?
That was shut down, like, February, I think.
No, like, for a while, there was this time where, like, games would come out, they'd suck, but then they'd have a redemption arc later down the line. I think it was 14 that might have even started it, right? This trend of, like, releasing a subpar game, and then a couple years later... it would get the right patches it needed, it would get the right updates, and then people would say, no, it's good now. You know, so the most classic example, aside from 14, is probably No Man's Sky. That's the one where people say, no, that game's good now, right? But then, after a while, more and more games came out where they sucked on release, and they were promising to be good later on, and audiences started to get tired of that. They're like, okay, you know, just release a good game at the start. We're not going to stick with it for that long. So you started to see more of them burn out and then not get the updates later on. So, like, Anthem's a good example of that.
Oh yeah,
the Avengers game. Yeah, like,
I haven't thought about Anthem in a long time. Yeah, rest in peace, Anthem.
Yeah, so, like, you get more of these games where there's a promise of content down the line and improvements down the line, and they just don't get them, right? And I for some reason thought that Cyberpunk would fall into that category just because of how badly it was received when it came out. But no, it's really impressed me. the way they've turned it around. It's a really good redemption arc.
Okay, I have a prediction. Okay. 2025's best ongoing game will be Battleborn. Battleborn is going to come back. Everyone's going to realize they were wrong about that game, including me. I gave that game a scathing review when it came out. I thought it sucked. It's going to be great once... Let's see, is Battleborn even still active anymore? No, it is not.
Okay, well, that prediction is though.
Yeah, it was shut down in February 2020. Completely dead. Well, I mean, yeah, at least I didn't bet on it.
Before we move on to other Game Awards news, since we're talking about shutdowns, I feel like there's one that we should cover because it's incredibly funny. So everyone remembers Yuji Naka, right?
Oh yeah, this story is great.
The guy who got arrested for insider trading on both Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier, and Dragon Quest Tact.
Yep.
Well, they've announced that at the end of February, the international version of Dragon Quest Tact is shutting down. So, these two games he made big bets on, 1.5 of them have shut down.
Rip.
Yeah, at least he didn't have any jail time for that.
Rest in peace.
I mean, he might... No, he's probably never going to make another video game after that.
I mean, he was already basically stuck in the mobile hell zone since he got kicked out of Square and got into fights with literally everyone, including his oldest friends in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not smart.
I mean, at least he's always going to be remembered as the director of Shadow of the Hedgehog.
Shadow of the Hedgehog.
Yep, callback. There you go. Did it. All right, so there's more Game Awards stuff that happened. So, Final Fantasy XVI won Best Music. Congratulations to Final Fantasy XVI.
Oh, it did win that. Okay, yes. That's good. Yeah. I'm happy for it.
I was expecting 16 to win Best Performance and lose Best Soundtrack. Ended up being the other way around.
I feel like Best Soundtrack might be one of those categories that's just Final Fantasy wins it every year. It's going to be one of those categories that's like considered a boring category because they're like, oh, Final Fantasy's in the running, it wins it. It's like in the Grammys when it was Best Rap Album. It used to be like, oh, Best Rap Album. Oh, Eminem's in it, he wins it. Oh, Kanye West is in it, he wins it. Oh, Kendrick's in it, he wins it. Like, it might be that.
Was there even rap music in 2023?
Yeah, probably like that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, exactly. What the hell
happened?
That's
a good question.
What happened to rap music in 2023? There's like none of it.
It fell off, man. It fell off in favor of mostly reggaeton. Reggaeton kind of killed it in the charts a little bit.
And country music, for some reason, is really popular. I don't know what's going wrong with the world.
I don't think country music is competing for the same audience that hip-hop is, but yes, country did kill it in the charts this year.
Yeah, I don't care for this trend. It's disturbing. 2024 is going to be a bad year. If country music's popular, 2024 is going to be a really bad year. Not a good sign for the world.
Who's going to win Best Rap Album this year? Is a guy called Billy Woods. He has the album Maps, which is a good album. That might win it.
Congratulations to Billy Woods, whoever you are. I have no idea.
Well, maybe Nas will finally win it, but I would be shocked.
Maybe Taylor Swift they'll just give it to Taylor Swift. Person of the Year. All right, there's more Game Awards.
She's definitely winning Album of the Year, isn't she?
Did she? Can you count a remake as an Album of the Year?
Probably can for Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I guess you can. More Game Awards news. Final Fantasy XVI, you remember that game? It lost Best RPG to Baldur's Gate 3.
But I think we expected that.
Baldur's Gate was a lock for everything it was nominated for.
Actually, it was
Baldur's Gate 3 was the game of the year. Like that was the game that impressed everyone. It was gonna win that category.
I should have played it. I never had time. I'm waiting for it to go on sale. Eventually, it'll happen. I figure. Final Fantasy 16 was not nominated for Game of the Year, right?
No, it wasn't top 6.
All
I
right.
think it might have been nominated.
I don't
but
think it was.
No,
It
it
wasn't?
wasn't.
No, it was not.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No, I'm double checking that. It was not. It was
It was not.
nominated for
Okay, it
Best
wasn't nominated.
Narrative, Best Score and Music, Best RPG, Best Performance. I think a Baldur's Gate guy won that one too, right?
Yeah, Baldur's Gate got best performance. And,
Okay.
you know.
So Final
Yeah, I
Fantasy
thought Ben
16
was
lost
aggressive.
everything
I
except
thought he
music.
won with the spotlight to the face.
All right, well. However, Final Fantasy VII 2 did win most anticipated.
It did. Yep. For good reason.
Because, I mean, they might have... Everyone might have changed their voting mid-show after the big Final Fantasy VII Rebirth theme song announcement trailer. And
Oh,
the
man,
live
I'm glad we're finally getting to that.
Yes, the live
Oh.
performance of
Also-
it, too.
Also, you can tell that they were struggling for nominees for best mobile game because Ever Crisis was in there.
Oh, yeah, Ever Crisis. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, Ever Crisis, I'm glad didn't win because it didn't deserve to.
I assume Honkai Star Rail won that, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
I don't particularly like saying Honkai because it sounds like honky to me. Just all right. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's a ton of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth stuff, though I will call it Final Fantasy VII 2 because I like that better. So
Totally fair.
we got a big new theme song from
It was
Uematsu.
Uematsu, wasn't it? Yeah,
Uematsu.
it was Uematsu.
Uematsu? How do I say his name? Uematsu.
Uematsu. did
Uematsu.
the song. Yeah, he's done the theme song for a ton of games that he didn't actually compose for, including 12s, right?
All right, I have to
It's
say the
interesting.
whole name. Nobuo Uematsu. If I don't say the whole name, it doesn't sound
That's
right to me.
correct.
Yeah, Nobuo
Yeah,
Uematsu.
he did-
He's back and he's doing his thing
So
again.
he did the soundtrack for 12. No, not the soundtrack. He did the
He-
theme song for 12, despite the fact that he didn't know anything about 12,
Yeah,
and
no shit.
and so
No
that's
shit.
why that theme song has absolutely fuck all to do with the story or anything like that. If it had something to do with the story, it would probably be his best theme song. But as it stands, I still think Melodies of Life just washes everything else. But
Yeah, Melodies
so
of Life
he-
is the best of all the vocal themes of Final Fantasy songs.
right. He's not massively involved with the soundtrack overall for 7 Remake. Obviously, a lot of it is remixes of his own soundtrack for 7 the original. But I don't know to what extent he has a big role in the remake series soundtrack. But he did do the theme song for 7 Remake, which was Hollow. And I wasn't all that impressed with it.
I don't remember that at
Yeah.
all. I'm looking at his
Yeah.
credits and I'm like, oh, there was a main theme in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't remember.
Yeah,
that.
there was, and it was the first. I think it's the first one he did that was by a male singer, actually.
Maybe
And
that's why I don't
it
remember.
wasn't. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just like you say, it's not very memorable. So I wasn't all that impressed by it. But with that said, I love this theme song.
It's no
I
bump
really,
of chicken.
really-
You know, like from Type 0, Bump a Chicken song. No one
I
remembers
don't
that?
know. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
It is hard to forget that scene. It's kind of like the defining moment of Type 0, where you're watching a boy and his chocobo bleed out while Bumper Chicken music plays.
Oh yeah, no, I remember now.
Bump a
Okay.
Chicken is a Japanese band. They just have a hilarious name. And it's
Gotcha.
fitting because a chocobo's dying and their name is Bump of Chicken.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this theme song. I enjoyed that trailer so much.
I think the theme song
I've never-
rips. It's great.
I've never come close to tears from a trailer before. That's how good this theme song was. I love it, man. I love it so much. I'm so excited for this game.
The song is called No Promises to Keep. We also need to mention that Aerith actually sings it in the game.
Yep. It definitely sounds like an Aerith song, right? I feel like this might hit the same way as the theme song in Crisis Core. I don't know what it's called because it's mostly in Japanese, aside from the word "Y." But that theme song in Crisis,
what the song's called.
It's called.
That's
Y.
what the song's called. It's called "Y." Yeah. So that theme song, it's like it comes right when Zack's death comes about, and I think we discussed it last year that Zack's death is executed extremely well in Crisis Core. It's one of the things it unequivocally does right, that everyone can agree on it does right. Right. But it comes right at that time, right when you're at the brink of like, oh shit, Zack fucking died, and it like breaks you. And just to complete how much that scene destroys you emotionally, they hit you with that banger of a fucking song. And it's so devastating, right? But I feel like they might do that again with this theme song. Like, it might be after Aerith has passed away, she sings this song, right?
It looks like she sings it at Gold
be...
Saucer, is where I would guess this is where this is happening.
I think that's a red herring.
Okay.
I think that's a red herring, or it's either a red herring, or she does sing it at Gold Saucer, and then we hear it again after she passes away.
Yeah.
Because and the reason I say
it's not
this,
like songs can't be reused. Like Hollow is also in remake. It is the theme of the Sector 6 Slum Town. That's
so the reason I say this
for most of the game before the ending.
The reason I say this is because Tetsuya Nomura recently, I'm going to tie into another news piece about 7 Rebirth, said something along the lines of that he was alluding to the Aerith's death scene, and he said, this time we're going to add another element of emotion to it. And I think the song might be it.
Okay.
I think it's entirely possible that the song is what they add to it, is that Aerith gets her own theme song now. And I might be wrong about that.
She already had her own theme song.
Yeah, it's
but
a famous
it's like,
song.
It's not a vocal theme though.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
It's not a vocal theme, and her theme song is I mean, yeah, everyone knows her theme song is fucking amazing, right? It might be ironically, considering it's like basically Celeste's theme from 6, and yet the 7 one won out. But no, I mean, like I think it's possible that if there's an element of emotion added to it, this might be it. But either way, this theme song is fucking amazing, man. I really like it. And if you think about the lyrics to the theme song in the context of Aerith fucking dies after this, then they hit a bit harder.
My God. I didn't know that happened.
Oh yeah, Dumbledore dies too.
What?
And Darth Vader is Luke's father.
What? The hell you say? A few other things about the 7 Rebirth theme song. This is going to be performed by Lauren Alred, who is most famous based on this press release for the single Never Enough from the god-awful movie The Greatest Showman, which did have good music, but that movie sucks ass.
I didn't see it.
Lyrics are by Nojima, interestingly enough. And that's actually all the...
Actually not shocked about that.
It's pretty common for the writers to be involved in like the main vocal song.
No, yeah, I think he wrote Hollow as well. The lyrics to it. I'm not shocked about that.
I have so little memory of what Hollow is. I hear the song from A Star Is Born. That's what I'm hearing. And that's shallow. That's not Hollow. So I have no idea. Like, literally no concept of what that song could possibly be.
But yeah, like a large number of the vocal songs over the past 5 years of 14 were co-written by Ishikawa and Koji. So like, it's just kind of normal.
Okay, so we have a ton to talk about with 7-2. Let's go and...
So much.
Oh, man, you clipped real hard there.
I did?
Yeah, you sound super loud now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, that's a little better. Anyway, so let's start with the small news. So first of all, To celebrate Final Fantasy VII 2 coming out, Advent Children is coming to theaters in America in February. February 21st and the 22nd. So,
yeah, that's interesting.
I guess I'll go see that. I maybe...
I might.
You know what? Maybe maybe after all these years, and I did think that Advent Children Complete was better than the original Advent Children, and seeing it in the big screen... should I see it dub or sub? What do you say?
I mean, the dub's going to be kind of awkward because they're not redubbing that, are they? So it'll just be the
original,
old cast.
Yeah, it'll be
and
the mediocre old Sephiroth. Shall I give you despair? You know that performance.
Yeah, the old cast aren't nearly as good as the new cast. So, I've never.
Not a thing I don't cherish, Sephiroth.
I will say I've never seen it subbed before. So,
yeah, I'll see it subbed.
Yeah,
I'm with you. All right.
Let's see it subbed.
Okay, all right. I'll drive down to Texas and we'll go watch it subbed in February.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, let's do it, man.
I'm not actually I'm not actually serious. I'm not actually going to drive to Texas. But no, if you want to come visit, yeah, sure. But
yeah, let's plan for it.
All right. Anyway, yeah, so it will release in Japan next month if you happen to be in Japan for whatever reason. It is an Atom Tickets event, so everyone with your AMC stubs list, you cannot use your points for that. You do not get that movie for free. You have to actually pay for it. Shame. All right. Yeah. So anyway, Final Fantasy VII 2, there's like a million things came out. Like, I don't even know where to start. Zack's going to be playable in this, I think is one of the news we learned.
Yeah, we kind of... I don't want to say we knew for certain, but it was kind of pointing that way.
There's going to be a lot of news coming along for the next month. I think, like, all sorts of stuff is going to be happening. There's all sorts of things. Cait Sith is playable now. I think they've decided...
No, so Blue,
yes.
There's one thing I want your reaction to.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel about Mr. Highwind?
Sid Highwind.
Yep.
He's in the trailer for like 10 seconds and he's not going to actually be in this game? He's not going to be playable, I mean.
Not going to be playable, that's right, yeah.
I think you probably should remove the scene of domestic violence. Because that...
It's not violence, it's...
I think he slaps her, doesn't he?
No, he didn't slap her, he yells at her really badly. Like, it's the sit down, shut up, and drink your goddamn tea. Yeah. So that's... I think they need to retool Sid's character, and I've talked about this on another podcast, how if I personally were doing it, what I would do is I would make Sid into like kind of drunken and depressed rather than drunken and angry all the time. So like, you know, like Shera's still like, oh, this guy's a wreck. And the other thing I would change is like the one thing that kind of doesn't hold up well at all with Shera is like she says, "Oh, I deserve this. It's my fault." No, we can't. Do not have that plot thread anymore. Do not.
You know what?
Do not say that.
You could change nothing with the character if you just have Shera yell back. Like just like shut down, shut up, you crusty old fart. If she just yells back at him.
No, that works too.
If they're just that kind of couple where they yell at each other all the time, but it's like equal, that's fine.
That's another good one, yeah. I like that.
You can't do an abusive relationship for laughs, which is possible to pull off if they're tiny little Popeye pixel characters on the PlayStation 1. If they're full
with no voice acting,
yes. Yeah. If they're full 3D people walking around, then you're like, oh my god, this is deeply abusive. They're real humans with flesh, and now it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, so like Sid Highwind is someone who, when I replayed it recently, like I remember that Sid actually has a really good character arc, you know, because he starts out like if he's portrayed as, if you don't think of him as abusive, right, and you assume that whatever the intent behind the translators was or whatever, that they just intended to do it like how I described it, as he's just depressed and down on his luck rather than he's actively harmful, right? He comes from someone who thinks he's like down and defeated and, you know, he's missed out on his dream and there's nothing left for him in the world, right?
He's a Broncos fan, isn't he? I mentioned it. Damn it. Oh my god. All right. Sorry. It's on my mind. It's an obsession.
So it's all good. It's all good. Villa's on my mind for a different reason.
Mhm.
Sorry to say. But yeah. So if you think of him that way, then when he turns around and he's basically like he's so important to the group dynamic. When he has that whole speech of like, when you think about it, the planet's just a kid crying out for help and whatever. Like, his character arc is really, really, really good. So I think it's very important that they get that right, because if they get that right, then Sid is another of those characters that I think could be a standout character for me. Like, I feel like every character in 7 Remake, they've taken from the original and they've improved them. And they haven't improved them by, like, changing them dramatically. Like, not changing the personality. They've just given them more moments to stand out. And they've, given them a really good voice actor behind them. And I just feel like Sid could be that for me. Sid could really... I see a lot of potential in Sid.
Okay.
But the reason I wanted your reaction from it is because I remember in your walkthrough you were a big fan of him at the time.
I did name myself Highwind for a reason.
Yep.
However, the character that we've gotten the most detail about is not Sid, because he will not be playable, and I don't know how much we're actually going to get of him in this game. Maybe more in the third one. Cait Sith. They've reworked his entire battle stuff.
Explain that to us.
Alright, so originally Cait Sith was pretty much just another party member, except he had a crap limit break, which was all luck-based, which makes him mostly useless. There's really no reason he'd ever use.
Well, I mean, if you play it on certain runs...
Yeah, like if you...
It can actually be an amazing limit break, but yes, in normal gameplay, it's very luck-based, it's very... It's a huge risk.
Yeah, and he's also an annoying, weird-looking character that is a worthless traitor, and I have not forgiven him for that. But
no, he doesn't do anything to redeem himself from that after. That's the other problem.
Well, he does.
He doesn't
back and tries to save
himself.
the world. I mean,
There's that whole scene that happens right after where it's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself so we can get the forbidden materia. Except it's not really a sacrifice because I can just throw this robot body away. I have another one. It's like, all right.
So apparently, you play just as the cat, and then the Moogle summons along with him, and then you could merge together, split apart, and it seems like some interesting stuff happens here. The Moogle has its own HP bar, so if the Moogle runs out of HP, it will die. I'm not sure if you can heal the Moogle. I imagine you can. I guess it's like a fourth party member.
Or resummon the Moogle, or...
It probably has like
a
yeah. If it dies, you can summon it back again. I imagine there's a cooldown or something. I'm just reading a Game Rant article. I did not read it beforehand, so I'm trying to read it while talking and learn as much as I can right here. Most of this article is just the author complaining about the Moogle, and I wonder... Honestly, this kind of reads like it was written by ChatGTP.
You can just go to Square Enix's blog then. There's
yeah, it was the first thing that came up on Google.
They talked about 7 Rebirth in incredible detail.
Yeah, I shouldn't.
And also, Cait Sith is actually pronounced Cait Sith. It's not pronounced Cat-She, or whatever we thought it was going to be. They've confirmed that it is, in fact, Cait Sith.
Yeah, take that, Irish people. No one speaks Gaelic, you losers. I mean no harm to Irish people. I prefer you to the English.
Thank you. What about me? I'm Irish and English.
I imagine your body is trying to separate itself and, like, split apart at the seams and will leave nothing but a kind of gooey soup on the floor.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, you know what? No, there's a very long history of the English and the Irish intermingling, and I could talk about the old Irish and the new Irish and Palace of Settlement and all sorts of stuff, but we don't have time for that. We're talking about Final Fantasy VII. Fuck Cromwell.
And also, Cait Sith is Scottish.
Oh,
his accent is anyway.
But isn't he an Irish creature?
The name Cait Sith or Cat-She or whatever is an Irish name.
It's a Celtic mythology creature. So
That's
You
right.
know what? No, he is Scottish, but he's primarily Scottish. I'm wrong. All right.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, they
Like,
completely
there's
wrong. All that.
overlaps.
Now the Scots and the English, they go together, you know, like peanut butter and
Even
jelly.
worse.
No, there's never been any issues whatsoever. Chocolate and peanut butter, those two. Yeah.
Look, you just have to remember that for all of the people on those islands, they all unite over their hatred of the British.
Wait, what? Okay. What other big Final Fantasy VII things do we need to talk about?
Oh, there's a bunch.
talked about,
I talked about the Aerith one briefly, because I don't think there's much more to say. We can speculate what they mean by we're gonna add emotion to it, but you know, I think I
Red
will say
13
that
is going to be playable. There's that, of course. Chocobo Racing.
well, we already knew that, and I'd be shocked if he wasn't playable. But what I'm interested in with Red 13 is his battle style is not what I expected it to be.
What's his deal?
So Red 13 is more of a defensive character, kind of like a tank, right? Which I thought was not going to happen because A, Barrett already has that role, and B, when you think of his limit breaks in the original, wasn't really set up that way. But no, it turns out they're going to make Red 13 a more defensive, like, tanky character, which, you know, it's one way of doing it, and I'm sure they'll get it right. But it's just, you know, I don't think I would have gone that direction, but maybe they looked at the team and they thought, this is probably what's missing the most, because I guess as it stands, you know, Barrett is the only really defensive character, and everyone else is not really like that.
Red 13's like second limit break was a defensive one, wasn't it?
If I recall correctly, it was something to do with buffing the party.
I think you get defense and haste, possibly.
Yeah, that might be it.
I barely used Red 13. I'll be completely honest. I don't use animals.
I only really use Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, and sometimes Sid, and sometimes Yuffie.
Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Supremacy until Aerith dies, and Vincent.
Yes, that is the other way to play.
Or Sid. Actually, I use Sid a lot too.
Sid is very fun.
Highwind, of course.
Like, it is like, okay, so yeah, Barrett and Red are both defensive, but they're defensive in different ways. Barrett is very much a meat shield. He gets abilities that, you know, reduce damage and let him take damage for others and stuff like that. Whereas Red is a counter-attacker. He gets more powerful as he blocks attacks.
Okay,
yeah.
So Red 13...
That makes sense. That's pretty sweet. Because counter-attack materia was by far my favorite part of the original Final Fantasy VII. I always loved counter-attack abilities. My favorite thing to do was to give Tifa a ton of counter-attacks and make her attack the strongest, so that every time you hit her, she just responds back, and then she hits like 5 times, and they're all 99999 damage, and it's so much fun. So if Red 13 is built like that, he will probably be one of my favorites to play, which is tough considering Yuffie and Tifa are in the game.
I was correct. Red 13's second limit break is Lunatic High, which adds haste to the party and increases defense by 50%.
Yep, that's the one.
But none of his other ones seem particularly defensive, except Howling Moon, which is haste and berserk. Which
and that
blows,
one's
honestly.
Berserk is not a status that you want to have.
Especially not in Final Fantasy VII when you're constantly using magic, basically.
No, yeah, that's not a game that you want Berserk in for sure. So as far as who joins the party, I don't think we know Zach is playable. I don't think he joins the party. I'd be shocked if he does.
Well, no, because it's been clear that Zack's bit takes place in another timeline.
He's in another dimension.
It's separate from the party anyway. Like that.
Yeah, like
that's what we got.
in Zack's bit, all of Avalanche is dead except for Wedge.
Except for Biggs.
Except for Biggs. Fucking
Biggs.
Oh,
That's
how
the
can
one.
you get? How can you get Biggs and Wedge
Charlie
mixed up?
Sheen. It's Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen. What?
I just remember Phil saying that he looks like him.
Okay, I don't see it personally, but
so there's as far as who joins, there's also
that's everybody. I mean, you have Yuffie coming back, and then the rest of the crew.
Yeah, Yuffie coming back.
And like, except for like Aerith's triangle attack being changed to a teleport, the returning characters don't seem to have changed that much. They're getting bigger skill sets, but their general idea is the same.
Yeah.
But that is a really big Aerith change, and I'm gonna say that I love you, Aerith. I love the character. I did not enjoy playing Aerith in 7 Remake. Like, I know I've seen some good playthroughs of people using her to like great effect, but I found her to just be like, she's slow and she's hard to maneuver around, and she relies on these ranged attacks. But she's also, unlike Barrett, who is also slow and relies on ranged attacks, she can't take damage. So it's just, I did not enjoy playing her. So a teleport sounds like I might actually really get a lot out of Aerith this time. So no, I'm excited for it, because even though I know I'm probably just gonna play Tifa the whole time, like I know that I'm gonna have all these other characters to experiment with and see what their different playstyles are, and that was one of the best parts of 7 Remake.
I'm gonna have to relearn Cloud's parry move that I sucked at last time. Oh well.
All they needed to do with this game was just take Remake and make slight tweaks to it, and instead it feels like between all these playstyles plus the addition of these synergy moves to an extent that I didn't expect, even from Intergrade, where Yuffie has that a little bit, even I didn't think they'd be this deep. Between all of that, 7 Rebirth is looking so fun. And I think it's entirely possible that when we look back on the remake trilogy, quote unquote, that we look back at 7 Rebirth as the best one. I think, I can't think of many other trilogies in gaming where the third game is considered the best one. The only example I can think of is Ratchet and Clank, where everyone says the third one is the best. I personally prefer the second, but I get people who say that.
Whoa, tech now.
Go on.
I'm checking a synergy chart, and I'm noticing that there is one character on here that I did not expect to be, which is Sephiroth. So Sephiroth will be a playable party member in this too.
Yeah, but that's only during.
Yeah, I know, but still, that's gonna fucking rule though.
Oh,
Cloud and Sephiroth have a synergy move together. One thing
it's beautiful.
I understand why there's not a synergy for every single character of every single other character, because that would be complete madness to code all that. I don't ask that much work for anybody, but it does kind of force you to use 2 characters together, because why would you ever use, like, Red 13 and Tifa in a party together if they don't have a synergy move?
I'm pretty sure they are actually supposed to all have synergies, but also some of them are pretty generic. Like, there are synergy attacks that use meter that I think are unique for each pair, but there are also synergy abilities that you can use at any time that are
okay. There's like basic ones,
like all of Aerith's synergy abilities are that the other person moves over and blocks attacks for her.
Oh, okay, all right.
But also,
it looks like there's specific ones for specific people. Possibly.
Also, although you only, I might be making this up, but although you only have 3 in the party at the time, I believe, outside the party, there's other people that, do ranged attacks from a distance.
What do you mean?
I'm making that
tell
up.
what they're doing there. Like, they're hanging out around the edge of battle, but I haven't seen them do anything.
What do you mean? Are these
Okay,
like
maybe
the
they-
Final Fantasy XII like guest party members that follow you around like 3 times that happens?
No, the characters that aren't in your party are still
Oh,
following you around.
all right,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can see them in a distance.
You
But,
know what? I want them to go like completely. We're just video game as shit about it, and they'll just be out like cheering you on, but they can't actually interact in any way. And no
That would be
explanation of
so
why they're
much
not
fun.
there. Don't explain it. You don't need to. It's a video game. They're just there.
That would be so much fun. Yeah, so like I do want that the synergy attacks will between the party members will like change the strategy of like what kind of party we put together. So if I'm approaching 7 Rebirth the way I'd approach 7 Remake, specifically the simulation parts, like the VR battles, right? I would say, okay, I'm gonna put a party together of, for example, Tifa, Yuffie, and Barrett. And the reason for that is Barrett's gonna soak up all the damage, while Tifa and Yuffie, they're gonna be the ones who go in and they do all the damage, and they're light and quick, and they can just rapidly put someone up into what's it called, into stagger, and then just Tifa will build up their stagger amount of damage they'll take, and Yuffie will just like go ham on them, right? I would build it up like that, and then unless I'm in a more of a magic situation, or like, okay, I'm gonna have Aerith, I'm gonna still probably have Barrett, but I'm gonna have Cloud because his magic is so good, and then I would build it around. It would be around Aerith's magic damage, right? I would approach it like that. But if there's a synergy, if synergy plays a role into it, and then there's certain synergy abilities, that would change up what kind of parties I would put together and how I would go about setting that up. So no, it's like the whole everything they're adding to this game is so exciting. Like I do, like I was saying earlier, I do think that I don't know any other gaming trilogies where the third one is the best one. I think every gaming trilogy, almost the second one is the best one. So I think this is going to be the best one.
Let me think. Gaming trilogy. How many video game trilogies have there actually been? It's like the Prince of Persia for PlayStation 2. Yeah, that's all I can really think of off the top of my head.
GTA 3. Oh, I guess GTA 3. San Andreas
That's
was the
not
third
really...
one. That was the best one.
Oh. I thought you meant like GTA 1, 2, and 3 as the trilogy.
No, I meant GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, where the third one is the best one. Halo.
Am I allowed to counter? I didn't care for any of the 3, but the third made people the maddest, so I find that one the best because it's funny.
Mass Effect?
Go on.
Yes.
Okay.
No, like
Mass Effect 2 might actually be the most beloved one of that series.
It is. I love Mass Effect. That's one of my favorite series, and that was the one I was thinking of, where I was saying that the second one of that is by far the best one. But yeah, the third one. So here's the thing. Like, slight tangent. I won't spend too long on it. But
we're on a tangent already, so don't worry.
Everyone knows how mad everyone Mass Effect 3.
Right.
Yeah,
so like when 7 Remake came out, and there was some people who were so upset with the ending of 7 Remake. There were some people who were really mad. It didn't last for that long, right? And I remember seeing a comment where someone said, "Is this the worst ending to a video game since Mass Effect 3? I think it is." I'm like, big man.
What?
You were not there for the ending of Mass Effect 3, and just how bad that was. Just how poorly received it was. The ending of Remake, yeah. I mean, I don't agree with them who hated the ending of Remake, right? I disagree with that perspective personally, but like, Mass Effect 3, literally no one was satisfied with it. There was not a single person who came away from that saying, you delivered what we wanted, it was a satisfying conclusion, and no one said that. They had to rush out a DLC, a free DLC, to quote-unquote fix the ending, and even still, like, the main reaction to that has been, alright, it was better than what you came up with the first time, but it still wasn't good. Like, it still wasn't good enough. You know, they had to use fucking artworks for it because they couldn't animate scenes for that ending properly. Like, it was really, you know, there's never going to be a game with an ending as poorly received as Mass Effect 3 ever again. But Mass Effect 2 was the best one. So I reckon
think someone could do it. I think you can do it. You can do worse.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe someone could do a worse job than that. But, like, just the level of outrage was maybe unprecedented.
Slightly ridiculous, I'll say, in retrospect. But, yeah.
Yeah, in some ways it was.
It just,
like,
maybe it overpromised. I'm not a Mass Effect guy, so I can't really say.
It did overpromise. I will say that. It did absolutely overpromise. It's like when Todd Howard from Bethesda said, oh, this game's going to have like hundreds of endings, and everyone knew that was bullshit. They said the same thing about Mass Effect 3. They said no one person is going to get the same ending as someone else, and that's exactly what happened. It was 3 identical endings where there was barely anything changing them. But
okay.
Look, 7-3. I doubt 7-3's ending is going to be as bad as Mass Effect 3, but I can see 7-3 not living up to 7-2.
I'll tell you exactly how 7-3 is going to end, all right? Cloud is going to be on a train platform, and then Mari's going to be there, and they'll run away together, and then all the other characters will go back, and then a big theme song will play, and that'll be the end.
Okay. Interesting.
This is a very funny reference, if you had any idea what I was talking about.
I unfortunately do not.
Okay. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. It'll be a mystery to you forever. Maybe I'm just saying random words. Or maybe it's a reference to something. I think that's basically everything to say about 7. Like, we'll have tons more to talk about with 7-2, because, you know, what else there to talk about next few months? I mean...
Yeah, last thing that came up, also related to the battle system, was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth creative director didn't want reflex-type action without the strategic core elements in a JRPG series. He wants it to be tactical and not purely action-based, is basically what he's saying, what Nomura is saying there.
I guess that's in response to 16, which people debate if that's even really an RPG at this point.
Yeah, it might be in response to... I don't think he's, like, you know, I don't think he's making jabs at 16. I think he's just describing why he took a different approach to it.
I don't think he's shit-talking 16. 16 sold well enough, but not well enough for some people, as it turns out.
No, it's weird. Like, people have make all these accusations at the people in Square, saying like, "Oh, are you shit talking the other game that came out?" Like, and no, I don't see that. I think people read into it a little bit too much. But
well, actually, Techno. Speaking of Final Fantasy XVI sales,
go on.
You and me, some time back, we had a discussion. Yeah, we have to go into this discussion. So. You bet that at the end of this year, Final Fantasy XVI will sell over 10 million copies. Now, let's check what Final Fantasy XVI sales are. According to the latest thing, let's see. I'm trying to find a good, solid number, more than back in June, because we haven't heard much since. It looks like the latest number, the highest number I can find is 3 million. Can't possibly be right. There has to be more than that.
That's like, I mean, you can just extrapolate to know that it hasn't hit Techno's target. Because the 3 million number was, what, 2 weeks after release?
Yeah. If it was 10 million, we would have heard 10 million. They would have announced it by this point.
Yeah, it has not sold another 7 million in like 5 months.
No. So, Techno, you owe me $20 of Steam credit.
Okay, I'm going to say 2 things with regard to this. The first thing I'm going to say is we don't tend to get accurate details on the sales figures for games, right?
Are you wiggling out of this?
I'm not. This
Okay.
isn't me wiggling out of this.
All right.
I'm just making a tangent, right? So we don't tend to get those figures all that accurate. Like, so for example, we didn't know how well the Ratchet and Clank game sold until there was an illegal leak from Insomniac Games, wherein we found that no, it actually sold extremely good numbers. It was really respectable and exceeded their expectations by 2 million. So, well done, Ratchet and Clank. But and we're not likely to get accurate numbers on 16 unless there's either another leak like that. I hope there's not, that comes out, or they actually come out and tell us in like a financial report saying, "Oh, 16 did this well," or whatever.
They do not give exact numbers in financial reports. I've read.
They do not give
No.
exact numbers, so that's not likely to happen. So we're not likely to get the exact numbers. However, like SEM said, we can comfortably say it did not sell what I thought it would sell.
No.
Right.
Look, even if we don't get exact numbers, I can comfortably say that if any of the entries in this series hit 10 million, we'll know.
Okay.
Right.
So, Techno.
Like seven remake hit 7 million this year. They announced that for the obvious reason. Go on.
Go on.
Okay. The next thing I was gonna say was that the reason I was so confident about it at the time was that I was hearing so much hype around the game, right, that it was getting me legitimately excited. I was very bullish on that game, and what I was hearing was that it was going to be this high quality, really strong game, and it was going to be like a sleeper hit for a lot of people. You couple that with the fact that it's in theory a much more accessible game than a lot of the other Final Fantasies are. It could in theory reach a lot of audiences that previous games might have been a little bit constrained by. You can imagine certain people there are certain people in this world who are, unfortunately, they're just put off by anything that looks even remotely anime related, and they think it must be bad by default, so they would never play a Final Fantasy game.
Well,
but 16 would appeal.
Techno, let me ask you this question. Did you buy Final Fantasy 16?
No, I did not, and I was about to get to that.
So
right.
You did not help your own hopes in this
I
wager.
did not help my own case. Right. So, I was really, really bullish on it, because that was the sense I was getting at the time, was that it was really going to be it was going to be one of those games that I thought was going to sell through word of mouth because of how good it was, right? But when it came out, it turned out it was good. It didn't live up to that level. It didn't live up to the level that I thought it was going to hit, right? And that was just because all of the people I heard that were saying, "You're not ready for how good this game is," and blah, 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 they tended to be a little bit quiet. That, those voices dampened a little bit after the game came out, and then the game was kind of lost in conversation. And at that point, I knew I'd lost the bet at that point, right? And I have nothing against 16. Again, I didn't play it. The reason I didn't play it is because I got the demo and I really didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
And that gives me no joy to say, but it's not a bad demo. It's a good demo.
It's
I'd
the
say.
best slice of that game. You played the best 2 hours of that game.
I was really enjoying the story of it. I was really enjoying the story. I did not get on with the combat system, and I was distraught. I was so upset that I stopped at the game. So, and then all the reviews I was hearing afterwards was people saying, "Oh, the story is whatever, but the gameplay is really, really good." And I thought, well, I liked the story and I didn't like the gameplay, so why would I like this game? So that's why I didn't buy it. So,
unfortunately, you owe me $20 of Steam stuff now.
I do not.
Yes, you do.
Because, no. So I do, but there was another bet related to 16 that I won.
Oh. Which bet's this?
I had a bet with Cat Used.
Oh, yes.
Related to one of 16's characters. I was saying, this was before the hype for 16 picked up. My biggest fear of the game was that I didn't think any of the female characters would be interesting at all. and Cat Hughes made this bet with me that was along the lines of, I think one of these will be really interesting. And we had this like criteria to determine if one of the female characters from 16 was going to be all that memorable. That did not materialize.
Okay, so what was the details of this bet? Let's see if we can remember. We have this saved somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, I think it was
wording.
General.
Where is it?
Yeah, here. Your bet can't be cashed in yet, Techno. It's within 12 months of 16th release.
Okay, all right. So, yep, all right. So that bet we'll have to deal with in July of 2024, because that's when did 16 come out? June of 2024. For now, you owe me 20 Steam dollars. So the game I am asking from you, which is luckily on sale, and I'm not going to ask for the remaining 7. This is Paranorma Site, the 7 Mysteries of Hanjo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Square Enix. It is a horror, I guess you'd call it like visual novel game. I've heard extremely good things about it. Nobody's played this. Jason Schreier has very good things to say about it on his podcast, so I have to give this a try before I write my top 10.
Yep. Totally fair. Okay, I will buy you that game.
All right. Thank you so much.
So lesson learned from me is I shouldn't have made the bet as early as I made it.
Nope.
Right? I should have made it around the time of release and after the reviews had come out. Because had I done that, I wouldn't have made that bet.
If memory serves, you were talking about it outselling like Witcher 3 or something, and I
was not talking about it outselling Witcher 3.
Like 10 million for most video games is extremely bullish. Like,
that is extremely.
Well, I was comparing it.
Usual 10 million club. It's Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty.
And Final Fantasy XV.
I was saying,
actually.
No, what I was saying about it was that I was comparing it to Witcher 3 from the sense of I thought it was going to be one of those games that didn't get a huge amount of, people out who didn't know The Witcher didn't know about The Witcher 3 until after it came out. Then it started to spread through word of mouth and became more and more well known to the point where it got its stupidly high numbers. And I thought if there's any Final Fantasy game that could do that, it's 16.
Well, Techno, you were kind of right in that there was a game that did have incredible word of mouth and was a major hit that no one would have expected. Unfortunately, that game was Baldur's Gate 3.
That is right.
Yes.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate became that game.
We wasted our lives. We all should have been Baldur's Gate fans. We should have been running a Baldur's Gate podcast all this years, writing the Baldur's Gate wiki. I don't even know what Baldur's Gate is.
But you could argue that Final Fantasy did already have its sleeper hit, and it didn't need 16, and that sleeper hit was 14. You could make a solid case for that.
There's the Norse god Baldur, but he doesn't really have a gate, so I'm not sure what that even refers to. What is that thing? Let me go to the Baldur's Gate wiki and look up what Baldur's Gate is.
But yeah, I do wonder, because 16, it doesn't really have bad sales considering that it came out on only a single console. Those aren't bad sales. They're less than Ratchet & Clank's, funnily enough, but the game's been out for less time than Ratchet & Clank has been out for. But no, so I wonder what takeaways Square Enix are going to have from this, because I feel like with between 16 and 15, they were chasing this whole let's get the non-Final Fantasy fans back kind of thing with it, and I wonder if they're gonna do that anymore.
I don't know what you do after 16. You make Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is what you do after 16, I guess.
Well, yeah, of course. But my take is...
Sorry to interrupt you. Baldur's Gate is apparently a city on the continent of Faerun. That's what that means. I did not know that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so my take is that seeing how well the 7 series did, if I was Square, what I do is I say, let's lean into our strengths. Let's lean into what made Final Fantasy so good and what people loved about Final Fantasy. And let's try and make a classic Final Fantasy game as opposed to try and copy what everyone else is doing. Because I got the sense from... I'm not trying to hate on 16 because I can't hate on a game I haven't played.
I can.
But I got the sense from 16 that was what they were trying to do.
Yeah, they were trying to do what many of these games have done, and is make a Final Fantasy game that's action-packed and also a large open-world RPG, but you can't do that with a Devil May Cry game. It just does not work. I looked at that Final Fantasy XVI DLC, and it wasn't even just like that I was uninterested in what would happen with the characters, which is unfortunately also true. I don't give a crap what happens to Clive. I'm a total hater. Hater mode. Hater. Always be hating. That's my motto. Always be hating. I don't want to do any more of that combat. I'm so tired. I was so tired of it while playing the game, and the game's not all that long. And doing more of it would just drive me up a friggin' wall. Just the same crap over and over again. Every battle was the same, Techno. SomeColorMage, every battle was the same.
Right.
You did the same thing. It was just do your cooldowns every time. It doesn't matter what guy you picked or what attack you did. It didn't make any damn difference. It's just cooldowns.
I'm sorry, Blue. I'm sorry that
It's...
that you didn't enjoy it.
And then they heard my complaint about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or Remake, whatever, where I'm like, oh, this dodge roll doesn't work. So then they made the most ridiculously broken dodge roll that no matter what you do, you never take damage unless you really play incredibly sloppily. And I did lose a few times, so that tells you how much I suck at video games. Alright, so Final Fantasy of the Year. Let's move on to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know which game isn't making your Final Fantasy of the Year.
Well, I figure each one of us gets to pick one of these. I have a list of nominees here.
Go on.
Okay. So, the nominees for Final Fantasy of the Year 2023 are Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, Final Fantasy XVI, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, Super Mario RPG Remake, Octopath Traveler 2, and Final Fantasy XIV, because Final Fantasy XIV eternally, forever, must always be on the list.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, who goes first?
SomeColorMage, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. I haven't heard you in a little while. I thought you might be AFK. Do you
No,
want
You
to...
two were just too busy playing off each other.
Okay. No, your energy is important too. We need it. It's a balancing energy. I want you to pick your Final Fantasy of the Year, and if none of those games are actually what you want to pick for Final Fantasy of the Year, feel free to interrupt and make your own.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, like, yeah, I mean, for Final Fantasy of the Year, we'll stick with these 6, because...
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so, I mean, Final Fantasy XIV is obviously the eternal best, although, like, while I wouldn't call this year bad, it's, you know, it's clear that the reduced, the slower pace is starting, of the updates is starting to cause a bit of a problem, and, like, people complain about the story, but I thought it was fine. Like, it was obviously a corny pastiche of Final Fantasy IV's plot, and that is what it delivered, and it delivered it with aplomb, so I don't give a fuck. Also, like, we got a fight against Rebirth Cait with music composed by the guy who did one of the legendary old fan remixes of the Battle of the Four Fiends song, so that was excellent.
Yeah.
So, like, it's up there, but because it's Final Fantasy XIV and it is still, you know, the game that's been running since 2013, I don't really want to call it the best. Last place is obviously Ever Crisis.
Yep.
Yep.
I did not play that game.
On this list of 6,
Oh.
I think it comes 8th place.
Wait, what's 7th then?
Well, I was going to say give it 7th place, but that implies that a Final Fantasy VII game that's good enough to be number 7. It's clearly not, therefore it gets bumped down to 8.
You know what? I'll tell you what 7 is. 7 is Sea of Stars, the Chrono Trigger-ish game that I ultimately found was extremely boring.
Okay, I haven't played that, so I'm willing to accept your judgment on that. Okay, so of what we have left, I haven't actually played the Super Mario RPG remake yet, but I have seen all the new stuff, And it is frankly a phenomenal game. It is a phenomenal remake that gets what Super Mario RPG is.
I need to play that, don't I?
You
What
do need to
they've
play
done
that.
with
It's extremely worth your
what
time.
they have done with Kulex in the remake is incredibly hilarious.
He's hot now.
He's hot now. Like,
He's distressingly hot now.
like you know, it's like they looked at, like, when they originally made Kulex, they imagined, you know, what does the combined forces of Amano and Nomura draw during the SNES days, and now here in 2023, they just thought about some more. What does the combined forces of Amano and Nomura draw during the HD era? And it turns out he gets incredibly hotter. Okay, so
has anyone played?
Has
anyone played Octopath Traveler 2, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I'd played it.
I've played it.
What were your thoughts? Because I put that on here because I've heard incredibly good things, but Octopath Traveler 1 kind of depressed me, and I can't bring myself to play the sequel.
Octopath Traveler 2, well, it depends. What did you not like about the first game?
I thought the game was great, and I was loving every part of it until I realized I was doing the exact same thing every time for all 8 of these characters, and I went on way too long, and then at a certain point I realized I hadn't played the game for 2 months, and in fact had not played any games for 2 months just because I could not bring myself to keep playing that video game.
Okay, well, I think Octopath Traveler 2 does solve your biggest problem then, because you know, each character's story structure is actually somewhat different. Like, there are a few characters that are just like completely freeform. After you do their intro, you can do all of their events in any order. Some characters that have split paths in their route, and some characters have shorter or longer stories. And also, they do actually interact more with each other. That is like the biggest problem with Octopath 1, that all of these stories felt completely self-contained, and the other 7 people are just, you know, off to the side having a drink or something. Like, while the main character stories are still just entirely focused on that person, they added side quests that are about multiple characters interacting with each other. The party chat feature actually works so that, you know, you can get all of the party chats without having to constantly swap your party around.
Well, is the story at least more interesting? Because I think the other problem is I played that game, and I don't remember a single character or any of their plots.
The only interesting character was the dancer lady.
Oh yeah, she was a prostitute. That was kind of messed up.
I think it's a little better, and I also think the setting is a lot more interesting. Like, Octopath Traveler 2 takes place in a world that's like in the midst of Industrial Revolution, and there are stories, and like there are parts of stories and stuff that, you know, deal with the impacts of that, and like, you know, one half of the game world is quite clearly richer than the other half, and there's a lot of this comes from one character, this game's merchant character, who's basically his goal is to bend capitalism to his will, so he can get a ton of money and give it to the slum that he comes from. But there's a lot of this. There are a lot more interesting ideas in there. Look, I have not finished Octopath 2. I have gotten further in it than I did the first game.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. So I think it did better in that respect.
But it's not Final Fantasy of the Year, though.
It's not Final Fantasy of the Year.
Okay.
Well, you've really sold me on it.
Okay, so what does that leave us? That
leaves 16 and Final Barline, yes. Some people here really loved Final Barline. I thought it wasn't as good as the Kingdom Hearts rhythm game, to be honest.
I think these are both excellent games. Like, you know, I mean, I know your criticisms of 16, and like, you know, 16 might not be an S tier Final Fantasy like I would like if you gave me a rating list, I'd probably put it right between A and B. It is a very good game. It has some obvious flaws that they could potentially fix, but probably aren't fixing because I think this is the game they wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
And and like, yeah, while I like it, I think I liked Final Bar Line more.
And that is, of course, the rhythm game where you and a party of chibi characters run around and play adventures using the Final Fantasy music.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's like it is a well-designed game. Like, okay, some very hard note charts aside, because it is a rhythm game, and we'll get 2 extra if you let it. But
oh yeah,
I like, and I've probably put more hours into Final Bar Line than I have 16.
You know what? If you had picked 16, I would have respected the pick, and I respect your pick for Final Bar Line.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, like, I guess it really comes down to, like, if it's specifically Final Fantasy of the year, yeah, it does come down to those two, because, like, Super Mario RPG is a good game, but, like, ultimately, it's not supposed to be a Final Fantasy game. It is very much Mario, and, like, there were 2 series that spun off this that are more in line with the ideas that it was pushing than anything Final Fantasy did from there on, except for, I guess, the soundtrack, because this I mean, you can tell from, like, switching between the original and remastered track. This is the part where Shimomura started drifting towards her Kingdom Hearts style.
Yeah, music slaps, I'll tell you that.
But yeah, Super Mario RPG is, like, it's really not Final Fantasy of the year. It's an excellent game, but it's not really that category. And Final Fantasy XIV is the Final Fantasy of 2013. It is currently 2023.
Okay, so that's 1 vote for Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, and also you did what I probably should have done originally, which is go over every single one of these games. Techno, what is your vote for Final Fantasy of the year?
Yeah, so I'm going to start by saying I am a horrible Final Fantasy fan. I have played none of these. Wow. Yeah, so in my defense, basically, this was the year where I bought a house, and this was the year where a lot of stuff was going on related to that. So I just didn't have the money or time left over for really any new games at all. But now that I've finished most of my house projects, I will probably start buying things that aren't just Aston Villa merch. So you've sold me on Octopath Traveler 2, because I'd already heard amazing things about that. So yeah, I mean, everything I've heard about Octopath Traveler 2 sounds like a huge step up from the first, which I already enjoyed the first, but I do have the same take that BlueHighwind has, which is that I found that as it was going along, it was getting quite repetitive. It was
that is incredibly true, and, like, the cohesive material is just not there. Like in Octopath 1, I haven't even started on anyone's chapter 2s, because it's just,
I got to chapter 3.
Getting around that starting ring, picking up all the party members, that alone takes a lot out of you.
I did 3 laps of that game. I got up to like 2 level 4s, and then I could not do anymore.
I got up to level 3, so I got in the middle of all of you. Like I said, the only one I was interested in was the dancer lady, because I thought her story was really dark and quite, like, they did something quite daring with that story, and then it just became a generic revenge plot. And, like, for example, like, there's the gladiator character, which, how many stories are we gonna have in video games where there's the gladiator, where you go in and the arena's like, oh, the crowd boos you and think you suck. And then the next level, no, the crowd is now on your side. no, the crowd is really rooting for you. Like, how many times are we gonna see that? It's so boring. Um, yeah, it's so I wasn't like I enjoyed the gameplay of Octopath 1, but I got stuck with it. Octopath 2 sounds like I would really enjoy it this time, which I wasn't expecting because, in a lot of these games that call back to earlier Final Fantasies, like Bravely Default, for example, it felt like the sequels got weaker, whereas this feels like that hasn't happened. So
they ran out of ideas with Bravely Default is the problem. They had one great idea for a video game, and then it turns out that was kind of their limit.
Well, like, personally, I thought Bravely Second was pretty cool, although the Default 2 is just boring.
It's the exact same. Default 2 is the exact same game. Or wait, which one? Wait, which one's Bravely Second and which one's Default 2?
Second is the direct sequel. Default 2 is the one on the Switch that isn't a direct sequel.
Okay, so the second 3DS game was the exact same game again and was kind of boring.
Yeah, but like at least some of those classes were interesting ideas and stuff, and moving and Default 2 moving the battle system to like tens was a horrible idea, especially as you can't see whose turn is up next.
First Bravely Default, though, fantastic game. It was the Final Fantasy of its year. Best Final Fantasy of its year. It should be on the Final Fantasy Wiki, some would say.
No comment. Okay. So the next one, Super Mario RPG. Everything I've heard about this game sounds to me like I would really enjoy it. I love Final Fantasy IV. I love Final Fantasy V. I love Final Fantasy VI. Mario RPG sounds like a game I've been missing out on. Again, I just didn't get video games this year, and I've been disappointed with my Nintendo Switch, unfortunately. I have not played that many new games on it. But that is a game that I don't think I'd like it as much as Octopath 2, but I do think I would get a lot out of visiting that game. Ever Crisis is the only one I've played. It was garbage.
I am so sorry.
Right.
So it's your Final Fantasy of the year. Final Fantasy VII.
No, it is. I can't call it that. I can't call it that, and I have played it. Ever Crisis, it was so, we kind of knew going into it that it was just going to be a gacha game, and any promises of it being the way to rediscover the old Final Fantasy games, the old Final Fantasy VII series, and get caught up on the plot. I don't give a shit. If I have to sit through that battle system, I'm not going to enjoy it. And look, there are people out there who really, they're a sucker for gacha games. And, I enjoyed the Dissidia Opera Omnia when that was a thing. I enjoyed the Dissidia gacha game. I never spent any money on it, and I still got a lot out of it. Worthwhile.
And even gacha standards, Ever Crisis is greedy as all hell.
Jesus.
I was going to get to that, too. But, yes, Dissidia had its run, and then it has finished its run, and Ever Crisis does not feel like it's going to get to that level. It's just I was so upset with Ever Crisis. The fact that basically you go through the story of Final Fantasy VII original, and it's the same thing with a new translation. That part sounds good, but then it's just a boring version of the same thing, where every scene ends with, "Oh no, Shinra troopers are attacking." You get to fucking Wall Market, and you don't even fight Hell House. You just fight generic Shinra troopers. It's so disappointing, man. So Ever Crisis, I'm really upset with it. I know its own story is actually decent. That's just not worth it for me. It's not worth it for me sitting through the rest of that shit. The next one up is Final Fantasy XVI, which I've talked about it.
Yeah, plenty at this point.
So I don't really need to say any more on it. Theater Rhythm, Final Bar Line.
Did you play the demo for this at least?
I did not play the demo.
No.
I've never really been into rhythm games, to be honest. I've got nothing against them. I've just never seen I don't know. I associate it too much with Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and I did really enjoy those. And they just never. No rhythm game is gonna live up to those for me. So, rhythm games just aren't really my thing. I've heard people who really, really love them, and I get why they love them because Final Fantasy music is really good, but it's not for me personally. So both Theater Rhythm and Final Fantasy 16 are games where I just have to say not for me, so I can't judge them. They cannot be my Final Fantasy of the year.
So,
And Ever
wow.
Crisis can't be my Final
At
Fantasy.
this point, you've disqualified everything except 14.
Yeah, is 14 your Final Fantasy of the year?
14 is my Final Fantasy of the year.
Whoa!
Like,
what
by
a twist!
default, it wins. It wins by default. You know, I can't judge the games I can't judge, which is either that they're not for me, and so I won't be able to judge them fairly, or I haven't played them and thus cannot judge them fairly.
Okay. In
And
fairness,
Ever Crisis cannot be my Final Fantasy of the year on account of it just being so bad.
in fairness,
Like,
I came up with these 6, so it's not like no one else could have nominated something else. Like if there's something that slipped my mind.
What else came out? Like, what else came out that was a Final Fantasy-esque game?
You could just say Spider-Man 2 is your Final Fantasy of the year.
Spider-Man 2 is my Final Fantasy of the year.
There we go. Yeah, there you go. Spider-Man 2 is your Final Fantasy of the year. Okay. All right. So that leaves me, and I'm going to go wrap this up quickly because we're past the 2-hour mark, which is distressing.
Oh, yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, we went long tonight. So, I think I've already talked about all these games one way or the other. I have not played Octopath Traveler 2. I did not play Final Fantasy XIV, except for that one time at E3. I have not played Ever Crisis. I played Final Fantasy XVI to completion, and, you know, my opinions are well known at that. So that leaves Super Mario RPG Remake, which, twist ending, I did not play that either. Because I played Super Mario RPG Original on my SNES Classic. And you know what? That was a damn great time. I loved playing that game. Mario is a little RPG guy. The game is just endlessly inventive in terms of how it makes RPG dungeons, which could get repetitive and boring, different and creative and fun. There's an amazing wedding sequence where Bowser kissed Mario. There's a running gag where every single time you meet an NPC, they're like, wait, you're not the Mario, are you? And then the game makes you hit the jump button so that Mario jumps up. And they're like, oh my god, it's Mario! He's the guy that jumps! It's just... there's a running gag where Mario can't talk in this game for whatever reason, because Nintendo's weirdly ambivalent on Mario talking. So instead of him actually explaining what happens, he like pantomimes everything. So he moves super fast and turns into characters. Geno is... You know, everyone who talked about Geno in Smash, I understand you now. I get you. I understand why people love Geno. He's basically RPG Gandalf. And once upon a time, I believe there was a Super Mario RPG page on our wiki, and I demanded that it get deleted.
We still have it.
Okay.
We have a new version of it.
Okay. The original version was deleted. I think we should have kept the old version. You know what? This is enough of a Final Fantasy for me. Even though QLEX is just a reference to Final Fantasy, I am a Final Fantasy maximalist. If it's enough of an RPG that it feels like a Square project, and Square back in the Super Nintendo era, they were just killing it. They're amazing games. I love that year after year I get to discover more of these amazing games that I missed all this time. Like last year, I got to play Live Alive. Live Alive is fantastic. Live Alive's an amazing game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Live Alive rules. How the hell did we all miss out on Live Alive all this time? And now Super Mario RPG, I can add that to the list. So there you go. That's my Final Fantasy of the year. I don't care if it's not a Final Fantasy. It's a Final Fantasy to me. Because the actual Final Fantasy of the year, let's be honest, in terms of cultural impact and how much it matters and strength of fan base, fan reaction, everything else, it's Final Fantasy XIV. It stays Final Fantasy XIV. 16, unfortunately, as me winning my bet, it did not hit the way I thought it was going to. The fan reaction.
14 gets an expansion next year, so it'll be
Final Fantasy of the year next year.
Yes, it will be allowed to be Final Fantasy of the year next year if it manages to overcome Rebirth. But
Final Fantasy of the year this year and every year.
Yeah, I will say that like you know, definite 14 is the Final Fantasy right now, and 7 Rebirth. Seven Remake did make a lot of waves. I don't know to what extent it broke out of I don't know to what extent it broke out for people who weren't previously disclosed to Final Fantasy VII, the original. I do know that I have come across some YouTubers who've said they were converted by it, and there's at least it had at least some impact, but I will say more so than 15 or 13,
Or
right?
15 sold extremely well.
It sold extremely well, and then it was forgotten about, right?
But
So,
We're Killing It did a pretty bad hit to its reputation, basically.
Yep.
You know what? Actually, there's a podcast I'm listening to right now about Final Fantasy 15. This is Abnormal Mapping. They made the joke that the game was canceled before it came out and it was canceled after it came out.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yep. It's a sad, difficult story with that game. But it sold extremely well. And the people that like that game, they love that game. And there is a contingent of people that love Final Fantasy 16. There's people who love Jill. I have no idea why.
So with 16, what I was about to say was outside of that contingent, of course, we don't know what's going to happen with the DLC, and we did earlier in the podcast mention Cyberpunk 2077 that had its redemption arc. So to the extent 16 needs a quote unquote redemption arc, it still has a chance to break through, but. I think
like Cyberpunk, they just need Studio Trigger to bail them out.
Yeah, exactly. They need a Netflix anime. That was just what I was gonna say. And they need my favorite song of 2022, which was the song that played in that anime. I Really Want to Stay at Your House. I love that friggin' song. I've listened to it like 10,000 times.
So with regard to Final Fantasy 16. We'll see what happens with it, but I do think that I'm very optimistic about 2024, because Aston Villa are going to win the title. Nah, just kidding. That's not going to happen. No, I'm optimistic because
Aston Villa, that's a racing car team, right?
Aston Martin is a race team because Aston Martin is a car. But Aston in Birmingham also has a football team called Aston Villa FC. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be so big, and I'm so excited for it, right? And I think this is going to be the biggest and the best game of the trilogy, most likely. Well, maybe not biggest. I think it's going to be the best, but I think it's going to have a big.
I think it's going to sell really well. I think it's
going to have a huge impact.
I think this game might actually sell 10 million copies. I won't bet on it, though. I'm not a fool, but...
I'm not going to bet on it yet.
The original release probably won't, but PC has potential, and I'm pretty sure both Sony and Square have realized that because the PS5 exclusivity is only 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So... There's definitely 7 Rebirth is going to be enormous. I'm so excited for it. So I think, regardless of what we thought of 2023, there's so many exciting things ahead of us as Final Fantasy fans. And, we just need to look forward to 17 because, there's going to be there's going to be something interesting that they do with it, and we'll see. But I have faith at this point. I don't know, that's weird for me to say considering I didn't play 16, but I do have faith, and I really think that we have a lot to be optimistic about.
Okay. I'm going to tell Square Enix, put me on the case. I got you for 17. I know exactly what we got to do. I'm not saying it on this podcast. I'm saving it for when Square Enix hires me. I know exactly what we have to do. I know exactly how to make that game. We're going to sell 100 million copies. We got this. I know exactly the story.
I know how to make that game.
Oh, yeah, no. It'll be easy. It'll be easy. It'll be easy. It'll be easy.
Yeah.
All you have to do is have bears that you can sleep with. Got it. Oh, crap. I said that out loud. Damn. Oh, gave it away. Gave it away for free. I can't believe myself. All right, so we're gonna end it here because we're
if seven rebirth. If 7 rebirth lets us take the dates to another level, like maybe we can get our wish with Barrett.
Yes. Oh man. Oh man. Oh no. Dateable Red 13. There you go. Okay.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're at over 130 minutes, so I am wrapping up there. I'm sure we all have tons more we could talk about Final Fantasy, but I need to stop this now. So this was the Final Fantasy Wiki podcast. We are a monthly podcast about Final Fantasy stuff, and we run a wiki about it, but we don't really talk about that on the podcast, to be honest. I'm your host, BlueHighwind. I also produce this podcast, and I do my best to edit out all the random noises you hear, but actually I don't do my best. I do a terrible damn job, but it's good enough, I think, for this. Our podcast music is La Montana de los Jóvenes Caballeros by Expert Novice off the OC Ruin Balance and Ruin... I think I said that wrong. Balance and Ruin...
OC Remix Balance and Ruin.
Thank you. I don't actually have the thing ahead of me because all my files were on the old computer, and I haven't transferred off the old hard drive yet, so... Anyway. That's all fine. I'm gonna go sleep. And then the music.
That was actually a really good fucking take. That was a really good take.
Thank you. Okay. All right, and then the music plays. Come on, you join in.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.